And again, less about the list, more again for me from the Celtics perspective, the importance of guys ascending. Okay, the entire success of the Celtics at this point this year and going forward is predicated on Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum not being 11 and 32 on a top 100 list, but eventually being 5 and 12 on a top 100 list. You know, that's how they get to the next level. That's not beyond the realm of possibility. I actually think Jaylen is a tad low here.
I was just going to say that.
And you can look at, and again, you know, you can look at this list and say, I could see a few people in front of him. I'm going to pull, and I'll throw some names out here. I could argue Jaylen should be, you know, let's go for the guys immediately in front of him. Okay. He's at 32. You have
Siakam.
Right in front of him, Siakam's stunning. John Morant, kind of a quick leap there. I might argue Morant will have the better career, but Kyle Lowry, no freaking way am I taking Lowry over Jaylen Brown. No way. Yeah. Trae Young, I can understand that. Ingram, Lakers fans from a couple of years ago having that Ingram versus that all of the Ingram debates here.
They're loving that.
They don't want to hear it now because he's not there anymore. I can't argue against Brandon Ingram for what he did last year. McCollum, Gobert,
I would take Brown over both those.
I would take Brown over both of them. Then there's Kyrie, Siakam. I would take him over Siakam. Karl Anthony Towns, I take Jaylen Brown. Then you start Bradley Beal, Jamal Murray, more offensive-minded players, Paul George. I can make an argument for Jaylen Brown over Paul George too. So that's all the way up to 20 before you've got guys all the way up to 20 on this list where you say Jaylen Brown wouldn't have been stunning if Brown came in at 21, 22 on this list, you know?
I disagree with the Paul George.
Again, it would not have been shocking if Jaylen Brown was there, right?
Are we all still?
He should have been top 30 for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, not to start picking at names, but like Chris Paul 15, that looks like he is he still a top 15 player?
I think he is.
The Renaissance season though, that boosted him up.
I want to focus on four names on this list. And you talked about Jayson Tatum at 11. Who comes in at 12 and 13? Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. I mean, wow.
Yeah. So I want to get into that in a little bit because I do want to talk about tandems.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, but that's a good one that you point that out. Anything else on? So I mean, I do think, like I said, is this team, if Jayson Tatum becomes a legit top 5 carry a team scorer, even the little bio under Tatum, talks about, does he have what it takes to be more than a number 2? He's obviously more than a 2, but meaning like the alpha who carries a team sort of number 1 guy, right. Not like a Bradley Beal number 1 guy who's fine and good, but he's probably not going to carry a team to a championship. Is he that next level alpha? And that's what we're going to find out.
And honestly, when you look at the 10 names you listed before him, I don't think he's there yet. I don't think he is with LeBron, AD, Harden, Giannis, Luka, Durant, Curry, Dame, Kawhi, Jokic. I don't think he is with that tier yet. And he shows flashes of it. I think he's capable of it. He's also 22. So, I mean, can you even expect him to be? I mean, obviously, yeah, like, Luka and some of these guys are around the same age, but there's some guys in this list that have been in the league for, 10 years that, it's not easy to unseat them at this point in their careers or in his career, but does he have the capabilities to? Absolutely. And I think that's why it's so important to build around him. And I think that's what the Celtics understand. And Jaylen Brown is your number, the guy that you want to be there in that top 20 range.
So that's the question is Brown. And so this was interesting. Jeff Goodman and Bob Ryan on a little kind of Garden Report extra after one of their podcasts did a segment for CLNS Media that you can find on our YouTube channel here. And you should check it out. You should check out their podcast as well. But Goodman's belief is Brown's not a 2. Brown's more of a 3. And I don't know that I disagree. For all of the talents and all of the things he does, I don't know if he's the number 2 guy on a championship team based on being asked to carry an offensive load that they're going to ask of him this year. What do you guys think?
We talked about that a ton during the playoffs, him needing to become that second guy. And the playoffs showed that not necessarily that he can't, because there were certain games where he carried the load for sure, especially in that Toronto series. Like, he had some monster games. We debated that 30 field goal attempt game forever. I thought he was so critical there, the way he asserted himself. But he wasn't always able to do that. Sometimes he got lost off the ball. Sometimes Marcus Smart was taking over more than him. So I disagree with Jeff. It felt like Jeff was saying more he's incapable of being that. I say within the flow of the Celtics system where ball handling and playmaking so important that he's capable of getting lost.
You can't be a system guy and a true number 2, though. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think
you have to have it on your. You got to be able to do it apart from everything around you.
I think
what happened in that
is legitimate. I think he's going to get the opportunity, and that's what we're all going to find out. But I think the biggest difference that I think people are overlooking is the Gordon Hayward factor, the Kemba Walker. I mean, those guys, those touches. Now that they're not going to be there, or at least Kemba Walker for the next couple of months, that's when we'll really find out when Jaylen can really sink into that number 2 spot, because he's never approached the season with that mindset. He's never even been close. So this is uncharted waters. But the thing that I bring up, or that I'm a bit worried about or interested to see how it's going to unfold, is if he's not capable or if he's unable or something, if Marcus Smart smells that opportunity to take over that number 2 spot, he's not going to think twice. So then what happens then,
Right. It's probably a bigger, like the first half of the season is probably biggest for Jaylen Brown, I think, for the reason you guys just mentioned. It's his opportunity to grab this number 2 spot, because we all knew Jayson Tatum was a number 1, and then you had Kemba, and then you had Gordon Hayward in the mix, and Marcus Smart. But now it's like, okay, number 2 spot's up for grabs right now, and I think Jaylen Brown is capable of filling that role right now. My question is, will he? Because remember in that Heat series, one of the biggest things in the final games of that series is, where is Jaylen Brown? He's standing in the corner. He's not being aggressive. He's not taking shots. He's not driving to the hoop. And whenever he did, they had success, but he wasn't doing it enough. And even Danny Ainge, I think he went on the radio the next day and said, we got to get Jaylen Brown more involved. So Jaylen Brown needs to get himself involved. He can't be standing there watching Jayson Tatum do it all.
Yeah.
I want to quickly see a couple questions here, Joseph, one from you on the starting lineup. We will get to some questions later on for sure, so you guys can load them up maybe a little bit later in the hour so we can see them coming through on the chat. But yeah, keep them coming for sure. Bobby, go ahead. You were going to say there?
I was going to say the skill set's there for sure. And we saw it in that Rising Stars game a couple of years ago in different situations like Team USA, where he's gotten the opportunity to get on the ball a little bit more. Hey, it's a different environment. It's a different context. So you get to see a guy's skill set in a different light.
We're basing so much. Anyway, keep going.
Well, I'm just saying the skill set's there. This guy, he was second to PJ Tucker in corner 3-point shooting. Across the board, I thought his 3 was phenomenal last year. He can get into the mid-range and hit a shot. And we know he's a great finisher. The LeBron dunk against LA last year. I want to say this about Brown too, though, because this is what I hate about the list too. Defense. So, like, if you have a defensive game changer, we talk about two-way players, even though everyone should be a two-way player if you're going to be great. He sets a tone defensively that fires up Boston's fast break, allows them to stay in games with players like LeBron James, some of the great wing players in this league. He's going to defend Kevin Durant on opening night or the second night whenever they're playing that game. He's going to be so instrumental what they do defensively that I think that levels you up in terms of your hierarchy on the team as well. Like when we think about the Celtics this year, they're going to be a defensive team, and he's going to be the centerpiece of what they do.
Though, Bobby, he still jumps for ball fakes on defense. He's still, for all that his handles improved, it's still just okay. At times it's great. At times his ability to go to the hole last year was such a game-changing thing, but it's still not. You want to know that when he's got the matchup, when he's got a guy that cannot stay in front of him, you give it to him on the wing and he should just go every time, you know?
And there's not a lot of players that can stay in front of him. That's the thing.
Not a lot. And that's the thing is that's all him having enough control to figure out the hesitation, the pullback to cross to, the threat of the pull up. You just have the guy on a string.
That's the thing. It goes back to It goes back to the complexion of this offense. What's it going to look like? He's a
predetermined move guy in his head. He's one of those guys that knows where he kind of has it set where he's going to do before he does it rather than feels the D. He's much better at it than he used to be. How many times in the past would you see him go left, have a guy overplay him, have a spin if he wanted it, not take it, or spin back into a guy instead of continuing on because he had it? He knew it. He's better at that, but it's still not all the way there.
But it's in transition. I mean, that's the thing. And I think Kemba Walker, Gordon Hayward, these guys had a lot to do with that, pushing the tempo, pushing the ball up. How is he going to do in a half-court set, between him and Tatum and Smart. I mean, these are things that they're gonna have to figure out. But
he
in that sort of offense and that sort of set where they're pushing the tempo, maybe Jeff Teague is your temporary starter at the point, pushing the tempo, pushing the ball, getting him in those opportunities, because that's when he plays in his best, when he's in the open space, when he's in transition. There's not a lot of players that can stay in front of him.
That's key. That's key too, Josue. Jeff Teague easing that burden. They do still have a couple different guys.
There's a big difference between him and Kemba Walker, Bobby. That's the thing. Kemba Walker, I mean, the pull-up three-pointer, attacking the rim, he was such a threat that guys had to come out and stay with him in transition, and then that's when Jaylen Brown shined, in those open spaces.
Yeah, and Jayson Tatum's taking on a load too when it comes to handling the pick and roll. So these two guys, in terms of ball handling, I've been saying it the last 3 weeks, they're going to dictate how well this team does. Tatum showed a little bit in that regard during the playoffs, so you feel good about him. So Brown can even run a pick and roll. We'll see.
Here's the thing too, and this is the bummer about this year, is I think you'd feel better about Tatum and Brown making the leap from, again, disclaimer, we know it's a list and it's imperfect, and it doesn't mean that this is where they are in the world, but they're not too far off from their numbers and their rankings here, okay? In order for Jaylen and Jayson to make a leap from 30-something and, outside of the top 10 into top 5 and top 15 and legitimately be the type of duo that on their own can carry a team to the title, they have to add layers to their game. It's what sucks about this offseason is they're basically coming back as almost identical versions of themselves. You don't have time to hit the gym, to add, extra muscle, to, refine a particular part of your game that you really wanted to work on. You basically had enough time to decompress, go home, chill out, and then maybe start to ramp up conditioning workouts just to be able to get into training camp again. So I don't know how much of a different player they're going to see. Whatever natural evolution you get just over time, but they didn't have an off season to work on stuff. So I don't know how different anyone is going to be, unless, of course, I could see regressions. People who just,
of course,
massive regressions. People going in. How many people are saying it now? Like, we'll play our way into shape when things begin. There's a huge portion of the NBA that just went home, got a little fat, got a little lazy, and they're just going to figure it out and slow play it through the month.
They're not going to be alone in that. And again, there's going to be nagging injuries. There's going to be a lot of stuff teams deal with.
Benefit. That's where guys like Tatum and Brown, those guys will roll out of bed, do 3 push-ups, and they'll be in shape. You don't have to worry about the kids as much. So for the Celtics point of view, I'm not concerned. But others certainly are. I just don't know how much better they can get.
And I think the condition-wise, Celtics are going to be, I think, ahead of a lot of teams because of the amount of time they spent in the bubble. Now, maybe that means they're going to tire out or hit E on the gas tank sooner than other teams. But I don't think you're going to see a lot of players coming in out of shape like you might for some of the teams that didn't make the bubble or didn't go far in the playoffs. But the other thing you're talking about leaps, we got Jaylen Brown's leap between the stoppage and the bubble. That was I think, leap that we saw. We were calling him Bubble Jaylen, right? So I think you're going to, if you see that Jaylen Brown.
Tatum took an in-season leap.
Yeah.
Massive one. Massive.
But when Jaylen Brown came back from the bubble, it was much more noticeable. Actually, Jayson Tatum had a very slow start in the bubble, and everybody was freaking out saying, what happened to Jayson Tatum?
He didn't buy a hoop.
Yeah, exactly. He needed a basketball hoop. He's playing
No, guys. It was the hair. Yeah, Latino Tatum was no more. After that, cut his hair. It was good.
So if we get that Jaylen Brown, if we get bubble Jaylen Brown, I mean, this season, like you said, John, it might feel like an extension of last season, just one long extension, one long year that we're in, one decade, whatever this feels like. It might feel that for this NBA season. But if that Jaylen Brown shows up and not the hesitant one in like game 5 and 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, then I think that they'll be okay with that 1-2 combination.